I call the March 25th meeting of the Richfield City Planning Commission to order. The first item for us to consider is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Commissioner Sturza, so moved.
Commissioner Hui seconds.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next item on our agenda is the open forum. It's an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on items that typically aren't on the regular agenda. We do have two public hearings, or one public hearing and a continuance scheduled for today. So if you are thinking you'd like to participate in the public hearing remotely, you can you can call in at 415-655-0001 and use webinar access code 2633-163-7555 and the password 1234. Did we receive any comments or communications from the public before the meeting today?
Chair, no, we have not. We do not have any callers for the open forum at this time.
All right, we can proceed then with the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Commissioner Keneally, so moved.
Commissioner Surma, second.
All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. The first item on the agenda is the public hearing to consider a request for an amended planned unit development for a time extension of and amendment to the construction agreement for a multi-story parking ramp at 1401 77th Street East at Audi Richfield. Is there a staff report for this?
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. In 2015, the city approved a new Audi dealership at 1401 77th Street East. Those approvals included the construction of a multi-story parking ramp on the property. Because Audi did not want to build the ramp with the original project, they provided $50,000 in escrow and entered into a construction agreement with the city. Since then, multiple time extensions have been granted. Now, 9 years later, Audi is requesting additional time, which requires an amendment to the parking agreement that the city had entered into. Per Audi's request narrative, all signs indicate that inventory is not likely to return to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon, if ever, and they have no viable business need to build a parking ramp now or in the foreseeable future. Given the seemingly permanent change to the nature of their business, Audi has indicated an openness to pursuing other uses, such as acquiring another auto franchise or expanding their service center. They intend to use the additional time to explore the possibility of other alternatives. Audi representatives have presented the attached, or what was enclosed with your packet this evening, amendment to the construction agreement, which extends the application deadline to 2027 with the option for administrative one-year extension to 2028, and the construction deadline to 2028, again with an optional administrative extension to 2029. Staff recommends approval of the time extension and welcomes any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just to confirm, the 3 years was chosen because that was the previous extension that was granted to the applicant, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, there isn't any particular, that number is just because that was what was used before. There's not a particular legal or other reason that 3 years was chosen.
Nope, it just seemed like a good number that we both agreed on, yeah.
Anyone else on the commission?
I'm wondering if city staff knows why the ramp wasn't constructed when approvals were first granted. In a typical development, everything, we don't condition approvals on something that would happen in the future. So I'm just wondering what the extenuating circumstances or the particularities of this approval was that it was not required initially.
Yeah, staff, and Chair, and Commissioner Stursa, sometimes development projects are phased. They felt that, or my understanding of it is, and perhaps the applicant can correct me, because the representative here tonight was there back in 2015. But my understanding was that they kind of wanted to get the brand-new dealership up and running and get all of the kind of get their feet underneath them before then turning around and doing another financial expenditure of building this garage, this additional parking for additional inventory that then never came to fruition.
So what was the impetus for requiring this ramp to be constructed, right? Is it city parking minimums or that required, that made this to be, that required this to be a condition?
Yeah, Commissioner Surma, the zoning code for the zoning district that the dealership is located within requires buildings to cover 50% of the lot. And without the parking structure or some other building on the property, the dealership only covers 29% of the lot. And the proposed parking structure would increase the coverage to 44%, so they'd be a lot closer to meeting the 50% requirement.
So, wait, so it has to do more with the percentage requirement rather than the actual parking requirement?
That's correct.
Oh, interesting.
I understand that there's a representative from the applicant here. If you have any statements or comments, if you want to approach the podium there and say your name for the record, and we might have some questions as well. Sure.
My name is Joe Bosco. I'm the general manager at Audi Richfield. We opened, we're just coming up on our 7-year anniversary. We opened, we were given our occupancy permit April 13th, 2017. Took us about a year and a half to build the facility. And interesting, I'm listening, you're taking me back in history from the time, when we first started construction on the building. And if you've ever been down 77th Street there and seen our dealership, we were fortunate enough to build just a magnificent building. We're 96,000 square feet. We're on 3 levels. The vast majority of our inventory is upstairs on a 3rd floor showroom. We employ 55 employees for the most part, seasonally, sometimes a little more as you head towards the winter, sometimes a little less. But it's a beautiful, beautiful facility, and we keep the property up as best we can, especially during the nicer months. We make sure our landscaping looks good, the building looks good. We were issued that conditional occupancy permit under the agreements that we're all discussing here today. The world changed. We went into that dealership. We're in the entrepreneurial car business, and we thought we'd come in and be the biggest, best, giant Audi dealership ever in the world, and that we were going to need, putting up that structure would make sense for us. And as we hit COVID and then we hit the semiconductor shortage and availability of inventory has decreased considerably. We're constantly fighting for that. A parking garage, just making it a parking garage right now would be an empty parking garage to fulfill the agreement. So we've certainly had discussions about what we could do in that area. We'd love to put another dealership. If you take a look at some of the agreements that we've written, or recommendations, I should say, putting in a dealership there would make perfect use of the property, especially with what we know how to do. We know how to run car dealerships. The difficulty is finding a dealership to put in there. There's lots of franchise laws, and the manufacturers don't always just want to open up new car dealerships. So we're constantly looking for something to put in there. And even if and when we do, it's not necessarily a light switch you turn on and all of a sudden you have a car dealership. You have to build it, you have to plan it, you have to staff it, you have to put all the lifts in. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So that's why as we hit this point, we're respectfully requesting an extension of the agreement that we have, and we hope that you can approve that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
have a question.
Sure.
What is the typical timeline for getting a dealership up and running? Would you say it's within that 3-year extension period, or will we need to redo this exercise
Yeah,
again
so
in
good
another
question.
3 years?
So the dealership that we're in right now, the Audi dealership, prior to us coming there, there's 2 Audi dealerships in, just to answer your question, in the Twin Cities area right now, Audi Minneapolis and Audi St. Paul. Audi decided they want a third point in the cities area. The time from them giving us the approval that we'd be the dealer group of choice to get it, then we had to select property, then we had to build a building. That all started in about 2013, and then we opened in 2017. So that was about 3.5, 4 years. It wouldn't be that difficult this time around. We already have the property. It'd be a significantly smaller building, and we have most of the staff that could run it already. We could share joint timelines. So I think that if we can come up with a franchise to put into that facility, we can certainly, and especially if we can find a franchise that's already around, we can just move it there and build the building, certainly within the 3 to 4 years that we're speaking of.
Commissioner, I'm just curious, what sort of timeline would you need to commit to doing something? You know, like if we can't get it done in this 3-year period of time, you know, I understand that things take time, but
Sure.
you know, I think my thought is like I want to see some progress and not just like keep kicking the can down the road. If it's 3 years, you're like, all right, we got something. It's going to be another 4 years until we open it. You know, just kind of what is the carrot that will, you know, keep you kind of chasing and moving along on the project rather than just so it doesn't sit stagnant?
For us, it's being a car dealer. We would love to put another franchise in that spot. I would tell you that if the city of Richfield said, here, Audi Richfield, you absolutely positively have to build that parking garage right now, if we can build a parking garage. We're going to have an empty parking garage sitting there. They have nothing to put in it. So we look at it and say, we would love to pick up a franchise. We're constantly talking to local dealers that may want to change their business footprint here and maybe sell us a franchise that the manufacturer would agree to let us move to that area. It's a great piece. I mean, if you ever took a look at our property, we got a beautiful piece of property right next to our building. 2 doors down is a beautiful Land Rover building that Land Rover built. A couple of miles down is a state-of-the-art Honda store. So it's a great area for beautiful facilities. Manufacturers would absolutely love to be there. So I don't think we're looking to necessarily kick the can down the road. I think we've changed our mindset a bit from 2015 to say, let's build a parking garage because we're going to need space for 3,000 cars, to let's put in a new car dealership. Let's run another store.
To follow up, I would much rather see another dealership there than a parking garage,
Yes.
for sure. You know, but if we said you've got a year to get a letter of intent on, you know, a next step rather than a full 3-year extension, what does that, something like that, or I don't know about that timeline necessarily, but just something to keep us kind of.
Sure, no, I understand.
Moving
I can't stand up here and tell you that I have a manufacturer waiting for us to build them a facility. We've talked, like I said, to a couple of dealer groups in the Twin Cities area that might be willing to sell us one of their stores so that we can move it towards us. Then we'd have to get approval from the manufacturer. We've also talked to a couple of other manufacturers that may want to increase their footprint here in the Twin Cities, you know, at another point as Audi did. I can't tell you that I can get you a letter of intent from either of them in a specific time frame.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Keneally, thank you.
Sir.
I agree that an empty parking ramp is in nobody's best interest. I appreciate that you're looking for other options. And on that note, aside from a new dealership, what other options might be possible?
Yeah, I know some people have floated some other retail space. Sadly, the only thing we really know is the automobile business. We can take that space and eventually make it additional service for our facility, a detail facility. Past that, as you go up, I mean, if you went higher and higher, the only thing to match the level of the current store that we have, it would probably be parking space that we really wouldn't have, it would kind of sit empty.
Chair, in light of that, to me, the request seems reasonable, that after a certain amount of time, things might clarify. I certainly appreciate that the world changed.
It did.
Well, we need to open the public hearing. Thank you. If you would remain available in case we have any questions after the public hearing, that would be great.
Sure,
If
be
you have
happy
any
to.
other
I'll just
questions.
take a seat.
So we're now opening a public hearing to consider the request for an amended planned unit development for time extension. Have we received any comments regarding that or any calls on the line regarding that?
Chair and Commissioners, we have not received any calls or emails about this particular request, and there is nobody on the line at the moment.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I so much that we close the public hearing.
Seconded by Commissioner Canali.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. Discussion on the proposal and staff recommendation.
Commissioner Hui. Yeah, I think, it seems like, like what they're asking for is reasonable. I don't know if there's any sort of mechanisms in place that we can put in now to avoid having the same conversation in 3 years is my only concern. What happens if we didn't approve this? What would happen from there?
Chair and Commissioner Hui, you would make a recommendation of denial to go to the City Council, and then the City Council would decide if they wanted to.
Sorry, I mean, what happens if this whole thing gets denied? I'm just curious of what the end game on each path is.
Yeah, the applicant could construct the garage or try to come back with a PUD amendment application to not have to build it at all.
Okay.
And then we'd kind of be sitting in a very similar situation.
Fair.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Surma here. So I have to say, my time at the Planning Commission, this is, I think, one of the stranger issues I've probably dealt with. Seeing that they've required this whole requirement to build a parking garage as a way to fill the 50% occupancy ratio on the site. It seems, I may opine a bit to our city and our leadership here, it seems a little bit like our rules are maybe at odds with some of our own goals here within the city, that we have this setup that could potentially force someone to build a parking structure that would be underutilized and be a not best use of the land, when in theory we could have a facility there that would employ people, engage in commerce in our city. This seems like some incentives are at odds with what we're trying to do here as a city and what our zoning code is trying to accomplish.
I too agree that I think building a parking garage is not the best use of space in our city, in our community right now. But I am also concerned that this is, it's been continuous pushing the dates back further and further. I am wondering if the commission might consider amending the extension to 2 years, and after 2 years requiring the applicant to present a plan for disposition of the property, like what they want to have happen. So they got 2 years, and then they need to come back and have some kind of plan, so that this isn't just year after year after year. We have good commercial space that is not being utilized. And I'm curious what the other commissioners think about that.
Chair, please, you.
I would be supportive of that. I'm concerned that the site is being underutilized at this point. Like others, I don't think a parking ramp makes sense, but also having an underutilized lot in our city for this amount of time is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it was staged this way, and I'm glad that we haven't had any proposals since I've been on the commission that are staged like this, because it puts us kind of in a difficult spot of navigating this right now. I think a 2-year term is appropriate.
We'll deliberate, and then it may be that a commissioner has a comment or a question for your feedback.
Could I quickly interject?
Yeah.
We had a training this past week where we learned that the body needs to vote on whether a public hearing is opened for additional public comment. So FYI. Am I correct in stating that, Sam?
Yes, that is correct, Commissioner Sturza.
Sure. Well, we can,
I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
there's been a motion to reopen the public hearing to allow for additional comment. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? If you have some things you'd like to respond to.
Step
If
to
you
the
wanna-
podium, please.
Nicely done.
I just wanted to make a comment and note that the property in question, and we're speaking of a lot, isn't a vacant lot. It's the property adjacent to our car dealership. It's paved, it's lit, there's a fountain area, seating fountain area on the property itself. We do have a number of our used cars parked out there, so the property is being used. That would all change, obviously, to build on it. I just wanted to make the point that it's not a vacant lot. It's been, there's no building on it, obviously, but we've certainly paved it and we keep it up.
If you didn't have access to that space right now, would it change your business? If you didn't have that parcel right now, would it affect your business operations?
I would say yes, because our service parking is there where we keep the vehicles that we're working on. We also keep a number of our pre-driven vehicles, a good portion of our pre-driven inventory on that lot.
So if you were to acquire an additional franchise at some future point, assuming you need this spot right now for parking, where would all that go?
I do believe that if we acquired another franchise to make use of that property and built a facility that would generate revenue, that we could build up and take some of that used car inventory and use it for that space. Otherwise, we have 3 levels at our dealership now. We could probably fit most of our used cars inside. Gets a little tight sometimes, but yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would entertain a motion to reclose the public hearing.
Commissioner Sturza, so moved.
Commissioner Keneally seconds.
All in favor of reclosing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is closed again. I appreciate the applicant's response, but I still think that the land is being underutilized, and as the applicant just said, if they didn't have, they could fit their inventory into their existing building. And whether it's a paved lot that is underutilized, to me, is still not good use of the land resources that we have in our community. So I still feel that it would be reasonable to amend the request to 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, require the applicant to have a plan for moving forward. If there's any more thought on that,
Comment on that, yeah. I'm not convinced how that, though, would help this keep moving forward. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive here, but there are a lot of different things pointing in different directions for me on this, and I understand that these business decisions take years to get going. Like the applicant said, it took 1.5 years to construct the property after approvals were built. I know the lead times on these and securing agreements, securing financing and approvals take a long time. I'm not sure how two years would really really help in this current environment. We're in with high interest rates and everything. I know, I also don't want this saga to continue going on forever and us to keep coming back to this every 3 years on and on. Like, I completely get that. But I don't see how right now shortening that period would help us get to a better use of the land at this point, other than just creating another point of debate and conflict in just 2 years' time. And I think it's 2 years versus 3 years, but I think 3 years is fine myself, and I don't think shortening it to 2 would actually meaningfully advance our goals.
Any other thoughts?
Yes, Chair, Commissioner Keneally. I understand both sides of this, the desire to see a resolution and the understanding that that stuff plays out over time. Whatever we can do as a planning commission to recommend that an alternative use is explored in a timely manner, I support. The proximity of this area to the surrounding park and the potential site for a bicycle velodrome that would be underparked doesn't escape my notice. So even if there isn't a dealership or a parking structure here, a fountain and a public space that's well lit seems desirable to me in some regard as well. So I'm not eager to force a resolution on this situation as much as I am eager to see a good thing happen here.
Chair and Commissioners, if I may, you might consider recommending a condition of approval that says that if and when they do come back, that if they don't have a development that they're coming in with, or a project for construction of some kind, that they then submit a history of the conversations that they have and the efforts that they've made and the results of those efforts, to at least show that they have been doing something in the last, in this 3-year period. That's a thought.
I get the sense that there's some thought that might be reasonable. Is there someone who might offer an amendment to the recommendation to that
I
effect?
didn't know that was an option.
So we would need someone to move to amend the recommendation that we send to the city council.
Yeah, Commissioner Hui, I would motion that we make that amendment. Do we need a motion to amend that, or?
No, you're moving to amend it, yeah.
Yeah, I move to amend that, that some sort of log of efforts made for some sort of progress be made at the end of this period to the current amendment.
Just a point of clarification, are you making a motion that includes that amendment then? Because
Yeah.
a motion needs to be
Yes,
made
I
before
motion-
you can make an amendment.
I understood it as he was moving to,
To amend and recommend what's in
that we
there.
would, to move the recommendation forward with the following amendment. That's
Okay,
how
so
I
you're
interpreted
making the
it.
motion with the
Yeah, I'm sorry,
amendment.
let me
Okay,
rephrase.
thank you.
I motion that we accept staff's recommendation with the amendment that the applicant, if we need to pre-approach for a new extension, provide history and documentation
With
of.
the 3-year,
Yes,
okay,
3 years is fine.
thank you. I'll second that. Commissioner Sturzo seconds.
All right,
Does that make sense to staff?
you
that
understand
clear
the
enough?
intent?
Thanks for checking, yes, I
Understand?
followed.
Okay.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the recommended staff action with the amendment to require a history and documentation of attempts made by the applicant before the expiration of the next 3-year period, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the action has been approved.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us.
The next item on the agenda is to continue a public hearing to consider a request by Partnership Academy to amend their planned unit development. Is there a staff report for that?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. In 2018, the city approved a classroom expansion for Partnership Academy at 6500 Nicollet Avenue South. The project did not meet the parking requirements of the code. Therefore, the approval included a condition that the property be brought into compliance with minimum parking requirements within 2 years. Partnership Academy is working to finalize application materials related to the request for a time extension. The applicant had hoped to have everything ready for this meeting. However, additional time is needed, so staff is recommending that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, if there is any testimony to be heard, to take it, and then move to continue the public hearing to the April 22nd meeting. If you have any questions, let me know.
All right, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Did we receive any comments regarding this previous to the meeting today?
Chair and Commissioners, I did not receive any emails or phone calls, and there is nobody on the line at the moment.
And it doesn't appear that anyone is here in person. I would entertain a motion to continue the meeting to continue the hearing until our next meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Surma.
Commissioner Keneally, seconded.
All right, all those in favor of continuing the public hearing to our next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is continued. Other business, we have a staff report for the bylaws and meetings.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Part 3, Section 3 of the Planning Commission bylaws requires that the Commission review the bylaws each year at the February organizational meeting. Staff is no longer recommending a change this year. At last month's regular meeting, the Commission provided feedback indicating a preference for amending the bylaws to allow for yearly rescheduling of Planning Commission meetings that fall on city-observed holidays. Staff does not believe an amendment is necessary for such a task. The phrase "unless otherwise noted" within Part 1, Section 1 suggests that a yearly rescheduling task would be included. Staff recommends rescheduling the May meeting to Wednesday, May 29th, which would be the next date that the chambers are available. This would be in keeping with the way other commissions reschedule meetings that fall on holidays, as well as how the Planning Commission has historically rescheduled meetings that fall on mid-year holidays. While the December meeting for 2024 does not fall on a holiday, the Planning Commission has traditionally voted to reschedule this meeting to 2 weeks earlier due to end-of-year travel arrangements. Staff recommends rescheduling the December meeting to 2 weeks earlier, which would be Monday, December 9th. Attached to the staff report is also a schedule of all of the holidays this year, as well as all the Planning Commission meetings and our proposed alternative meeting dates. Thank you.
Any questions for the staff?
Question. I noted that for the December meeting, we'll be meeting 2 weeks before. Is there likelihood that new business will come up in 2 weeks? Just thinking about the timing, typically, since I've been on the commission, we've usually rescheduled for Mondays, and we've usually rescheduled either the week before or the week after. I'm just wondering, it is what it is, but it seems like a really quick turnaround that we would meet 2 weeks later and that there'd be business to discuss, but those, I guess, are more comments than questions. Thank you.
Is the idea that we would move it to that, and if nothing comes up, cancel the meeting? I'm guessing we can't cancel the meeting this far out, not knowing what is coming.
Commissioner Hui, I think that's correct, yeah. We did get guidance from the Community Development Director, Melissa Pillman. She mentioned that traditionally the December meeting has been scheduled to 2 weeks earlier because there's usually a conflict with the HRA meetings on December. So that's why it's 2 weeks earlier, not just 1 week.
I guess I'm fine with it and just see what we see when we get there.
So do we need, we would need a motion to reschedule the meetings and adopt the staff action, correct? I would entertain a motion.
Commissioner Surma, I'll motion to adopt the staff recommendations to reschedule both our May and December 2024 meetings as recommended.
Is there a second?
Indeed, Commissioner Keneally seconds.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, liaison reports, Community Services Advisory.
Yes, so the Community Services Commission is currently prepping for the upcoming spring and summer season. They revamped the Recreation Fee Assistance Program. It's now open to Richfield residents with a household income at 200% of the federal poverty level or below. And they have also elected or re-elected somebody on the Friends of Wood Lake Board of Directors.
All right, City Council would be me, but I erred and I followed the, I read the school board report again because I wasn't thinking, so I don't have a report this month. Housing and redevelopment.
The HRA heard a year in review at its last meeting, and if anyone wants kind of a 1 hour, maybe 45-minute recap of all of the activities of the HRA, I mean, they are a busy body and they are doing really great work. So I'd strongly recommend that. In that conversation, it came out that the development at 7700 Pillsbury, which is the old public works site, that affordable workforce housing had been proposed for. They did not get the tax credits or the points that they needed for the tax credits and are no longer pursuing that development. So hopefully we will see something on that, something come through eventually for that site.
Commissioner Keneally with the school board.
Chair, I don't have a report for the school board, but I suspect you may.
Now you've put me on the spot again because I didn't write anything down.
If you didn't, I don't have a report.
All right. Chamber of Commerce.
I don't have anything to report from the meeting.
All right, sustainability, Matt is not here. All right, city planners report.
Transportation.
Oh, I'm so sorry, transportation. My goodness.
I do have something to report. Transportation Commission met earlier in March, and they discussed project update about the proposed Nicollet Avenue reconstruction, currently scheduled for 2026. There was an open house on that project, I think right at the end of February, that I attended over at the community center, where Hennepin County staff presented on a couple of different alternative concept designs for bike facilities and intersection layouts. Then the Transportation Commission also had a presentation discussion with staff from Metro Transit about proposed changes to bus stop locations around in the Route 4 corridor along Glendale and Penn Avenues here in Bloomington, and offered their feedback regarding that.
Now if we could get the city planners report.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. We held a workshop to discuss parking regulations last month, and I just wanted to provide an update that we, at a staff level, have decided to put a hold on those until the end of the legislative session, because there's a lot of stuff moving around right now in relation to parking that we don't want to have to amend our code and then go back and change it again. So it's probably going to be a few months before you see any further movement on that. And then we'll react accordingly to whatever they pass, if they pass anything. And then also, I sent out an email, but I just wanted to remind you that there's a joint work session coming up with the City Council and HRA on the evening of Monday, April 15th at 5:45 PM. And of course, we have a meeting next month because you tabled an item to it. So if nothing else, there'll be that. Thank you.
All right. We have our next meeting scheduled. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Hui motions we adjourn this meeting.
A second?
Surma seconds.
All in favor of adjourning the Planning Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand adjourned.